Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari recently approved the release of $1 billion from the country's Excess Crude Account for the procurement of arms for the military to boost the fight against terrorism, a move that has been received with mixed reactions across the country. Ona Ekhomu, President of the Association of Industrial Security and Safety Operators of Nigeria, joined us to discuss this and more. Thank you, sir, for taking the time out to join us today.
Thank you, ma'am. Good to have you.
Now, I know you've heard about the controversy surrounding the $1 billion recently approved by the presidency to fight insurgency in the country. Now, that in Naira terms, that's around 300 billion Naira. And of course, the controversy, there are different arguments, in the controversy. It's coming out from the Excess Crude Account. That money that we save for a rainy day, at least that's what is on paper. So, and that leaves, and if you take out $1 billion, that leaves around $1.3 billion from the Excess Crude Account. But where I'm going is the amount itself and the timing. What are your thoughts on how this controversy is progressing?
Well, I think it's a storm in a teapot. We are in the midst of an insurgency, several insurgencies, because we're only talking about the one in the northeast. But what about the Fulani, the herdsmen crisis all over the country? And where in many cases they have taken over communities, whole communities, and they have put to flight the security officials in that community. The banditry in the northwest, and there's been a lot of allocation of military assets to combat it. If you are allocating military assets, now let me give you a peculiarity of our situation here in Nigeria. In 34 states of the country today, we have JTF operations. That means military operations.
The Joint Task Force.
Joint Task Force operations in 34 states of this country today. So that's almost all 36 states where you have JTF. In fact, I can't even name the 2 states that don't have, because almost everybody has a JTF operation, including the Federal Capital Territory. So that is actually 35 if you want to, designate the FCT as a state. Now, having said that, you have too much military assets out in public space, policing the population, combating violent criminals, and combating terrorists, as it were. So what does that mean? It means you need a lot of resourcing for those people that are out there. But there's already
a budget. And we know, security takes a huge chunk of the annual budget every year.
Yeah, it does. That's fine. But those are for regular items, salaries. You have
basically overheads.
Overheads. A little capital budget, not much capital budget, training, purchase of new equipment and stuff. But when you are fighting a war, there are too many unknowns in there. And the question I've asked people who have been very concerned about this $1 billion is, yeah, it's a lot of money, but is how much is the life of Nigerians worth? Why are we so focused on the amount rather than the purpose for which is meant and meeting the objective or meeting the goal of winning the war against insurgency?
Okay, we know
because right now insurgency is driving away investments in this country.
Now, the governors were also part of this, and we know that the governors have what, has been termed the security vote funds. So can we now then say that that has also been exhausted if they're giving approval, if they're saying, okay, we approve these funds?
Yeah, the governors are only in charge of their own states, their own territories, as it were. And so that's their concern. Now, this fund we're talking about, this $1 billion from ECA, is going to the federal authorities, federal coffers, and is for general military spending. However, it's not exclusive, because it was explained later that this could go into, some funds will go into policing, improving the policing, because we want a situation where we can improve our police agency so that they can do their job and then the military can continue to step back. But much of it, the lion's share of that is going into re-equipping, rearming, getting some fresh gear for the military so that they can do their job. Yeah.
So this is going into equipment.
Exactly, most of it. And then I just mentioned to someone the other day that we flew a lot of sorties searching for the Dapchi girls, okay? That's Air Force sorties. Do you know how much that cost? That wasn't on the budget, so it's good you mentioned the budget. You know how much that cost to fly those sorties just for those girls? We're not even talking about the kind of air power you are projecting, because much of the fighting that's going on right now, let me explain to you, is a combination. We are now using a modern combined warfare. That is, the troops will engage on ground, and then they'll call in airstrikes to come in and take out the enemy. That's how we are prevailing. Okay, so can we then say that's the operational strategy that's on ground, and that's winning the war for us.
Because if there's that amount of activities going on, can we then say that Boko Haram has actually not been technically defeated?
No, I never agreed that they were technically defeated.
That is what the federal government continues to say.
I think, with all due respect to the Minister of Information, he's not a security expert. He doesn't know enough about that to say. How do you measure technical defeat? Is it a TKO? The TKO is technical knockout. What is technical defeat?
From the explanation that they've given, when they say technically defeated, they say that
they are not holding territory.
They're not holding.
That's not very true.
It's just soft target attacks.
I'm sorry, that's not very correct. Let me say what they said at the time. They said that because Sambisa had fallen, that Boko Haram was no longer viable. Boko Haram may relocated, like I've said.
Within the same Sambisa?
Yeah, they're not within Sambisa. The area is vast. They relocated to the cities, to the towns and villages, and that's even more dangerous. I would rather have them concentrated where it is easy. You see, every time Boko Haram makes the mistake, that's why Boko Haram cannot take territory right now in the northeast. If Boko Haram makes the mistake of taking, let's say, Damasak, or any of those towns, Goza.
Let's say in Maiduguri, in Borno.
No, they cannot take Maiduguri. That's too big for them, because they are, you have the 6 div there and everything. So 7 div, I'm sorry. And then you have too many military formations there. They've been trying. In fact, Jere that they hit this weekend was Maiduguri. Jere is an outskirt of Maiduguri and killed 28. So that's an embarrassment. But having said that, if Boko Haram took a town, let's say they went to Bama, let's just take a town that's out of the way, Bama, and took over Bama like they did before in 2014, it's so easy to rout them because of this combination warfare thing I told you. Because in the past, we used to fight blind. We used to go there and engage them, and they can stay and fight. They are hardened fighters. Of course, they are ideologues. But when we brought in air power, we dislodged them, because with air power, our guys will be on top, and then air power comprises many things. It comprises also intelligence. So with ISR platforms, we're able to actually even see them and say this is where they are, and then calling the fighter jets to go and pummel them. So they have been having it very rough because of this combination warfare, which is very brilliant military strategy. Okay, but I'm saying it costs more. That's the point here.
I guess, as we know, wars cost
a lot of cash. I remember one year when George Bush asked for $87 billion to fight Iraqi war, he got it.
Let's talk about the army now. They're under a lot more pressure now, because we have the herdsmen attack, and we hear about attack in this location. I'm thinking before the rally, there's another one in another location. And when one is fighting terrorism, as we've learned from other countries, is difficult, and most times it's almost reactionary. It happens, and then you send people there, and then you just try to salvage the situation. How much more pressure would you say the military is under right now?
Tremendous pressure. Tremendous pressure. The people are looking up to them to perform, to save them. But, like you said, they are doing rapid response. They are reacting. They are responding to calls for service. Now, what is the structure of calling for service in Nigeria? It's very poor. We don't have a 911 system where you can call and somebody will answer competently and direct help to you.
And in some areas, there aren't even telco infrastructure.
There are no telco infrastructure to make those calls. Now, in a lot of these areas, take like Benue State, where you have a lot of these attacks. Benue State, you have little huts, little pockets of villages, pockets of that's like communities or habitation. And why? Because they are purely agrarian, and they are doing shifting cultivation. So their agricultural technology is making that living possible. So which makes it easy for the herdsmen to come in and kill those people, and difficult for you to call out. But of course, when people are dead, somebody's going to hear that they've killed 20 in this community, and it becomes, you know, aggravated.
So
or
what kind of strategy
amplified.
can the government, the army, and I know that there should be complementary efforts from the police, but that has been quite little. What kind of strategy does one employ in this situation where there's a village on the outskirts of somewhere, I mean, a remote place just scattered about, and then they're under attack, and then, you know, before help comes, it's a couple of hours, or sometimes we don't even hear until 2 days.
Yeah.
What is the strategy? I mean, if we have air support, can that also help?
Yes, but air support can help only if they know that there's an attack somewhere. That's
so information is the issue?
Yeah, information is the issue. Getting the information out. I think what we need to understand in this country is we cannot have any ungoverned spaces. So everywhere must feel that there's a government, and there must be a way for the citizens to link in with their government. And the best way I can think of is this 911 system. Now, I have called recently, and even within a week ago, for a community security defense shield, where you will have vigilance groups armed by the government. I mean, when I say armed, I mean lesser arms.
But even that has generated a lot of controversy.
But people have said that, people have problems with it. But you should not have. Let me tell you, you should never, in a situation, particularly in our country, if we don't want to have these kinds of conflicts multiplying everywhere, you should not have anywhere that is not protected. And we don't have enough policemen. We only have 300,000 policemen right now. And they are not even going into most of those conflict zones. And then you have like 100,000 naira in the 100,000 men in the army, and it's a problem. You don't have enough manpower to police the whole country. That's what I'm saying. Okay,
that being said, what happens when we find ourselves in a situation where that strategy works and that we do not exactly need those vigilantes? What happens to all the arms? And, you know, because there are always stories that, you know, it falls into the wrong hands. What do? They're used to fighting, they're used to, you know, defending, they're used to using those weapons, and then one day all of a sudden you want to take those weapons from them.
Yeah, it becomes a problem. You're right. There's a downside to it. So you pick the one you prefer. The downside, I prefer that. I prefer to first defend my community, then come up with creative ideas of how to get the weapons back, and it can be gotten. It's been gotten. We are not the only country that's had this problem before. Look at Algeria. They had the 10-year war. Until today, they have the Patriots. But they're not, I don't hear reports of people going around killing people in Algeria. No, because that's what they used to fight the Islamists. Like, they had their own Boko Haram. That's how they fought them and defeated them. Because they knew, just like they had a small standing army. They didn't have enough. They had good intelligence services, and we don't. So, you know, there are so many nuances here and there, and factors also, actual factors here that play into the decision situation. Now, the first thing is, what would you rather have? You want to have the body count, or you want to be able to defend the people? Now, if you get vigilance force, now this is what you do with every agency you create. Are you trying to say there are no policemen or soldiers who go away with guns? They do, but it's few, it's far and few, and there's discipline. So what happens with that? If you get people into a vigilance group, you must know who, you must identify them, take their photographs, all kinds of things you do. There are standard ways of doing this. And then they must be supervised. And now when somebody is being demobilized from that, he must be disarmed also. Now, even we have gone so far to say that the arms that are given to them should be stored with every community in this country has a police station. It should be stored with the DPO because what we need, when we need that weaponry, is at night time when these guys operate. So when they come in 6 p.m. in the evening, give them their weapons, they go on patrol. When, thank God, nothing happens overnight, they come back, they surrender the weapons, and then they go away. And the weapons are secured at one site. You don't want to carry these people to carry these weapons home because they can fight with their wives and shoot them. We don't want that.
Mr. Ekhomu, we'll take a break. Hold that thought for us. Thank you for your time so far.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ekhomu, for your time so far.
Thank you, madam.
Let's talk about the state of intelligence gathering in Nigeria in this war against terrorism. It's a very vital tool, and for those countries that have been able to get it right, like the United States, I mean, it's not, they don't have zero terrorism, but it helps to a great extent. Wow. Help us understand the state of our intelligence gathering right now.
Well, intelligence gathering in Nigeria is good. We have a lot of intelligence assets out there, government intelligence agents, and then you have paramilitary services. Almost all of them have intelligence components in them. The problem with intelligence in Nigeria is collation, that's bringing it together into a point. Analysis, that is dissecting the intelligence to make meaning out of it. And producing what we call intelligence products. So intelligence gathering, I'm being technical now. Okay. Intelligence gathering, like you said it, is good. We'll have intelligence assets out in the field. We'll have a lot of them. We'll have from the Domestic Intelligence Agency, DSS, we have people out there, they have sources they work, they have, people they pay, CIs, confidential informants and all that. So, and then you have particularly in the North, you have the traditional rulership system, which also brings in a lot of intelligence from the field. Now, when I say collation, perhaps I should say analysis even before dissemination. I think that's really what I am talking about, because collation is part of analysis, intelligence analysis. That's when you bring the intelligence into one place, all source intelligence, and then you analyze it. That is one place where we have a huge weakness, analysis. And that is, in fact, the heart of intelligence, because it's the analysis that will give you the product, the intelligence product. Because from intelligence analysis, I can tell you where the terrorists are going to strike next. Okay. And there are so many things that can be gotten, decisions, menu of decisions provided to an executive so that they can pick what to do. But you see, when there's a weakness there, and in fact, when there's lack of understanding there, that's really what it is, then it's a problem. So now,
we do not have the people who are skilled, who have the right skills to analyze the data?
We've not built that infrastructure. I can say that for a fact. We've not built that infrastructure in this country. So
you're saying when the information comes, very vital information, yes, they have it's in the hands of whoever it is?
Yes. It goes up, it's written as a report.
Poor analysis.
It's written, yes, there's poor analysis. That's really what it is. It's written as a report up. We've not built a look. No, it's not peculiar to Nigeria, because that is just in the United States. It's only in 1947 here they built up intelligence analytic infrastructure after CIA was created. That's when they built up intelligence analytic. Before all this while, for almost 150 years of their
yeah, but 1946 is a very long time ago.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, to me, it's yesterday. So, but I'm just saying, from 1776, when George Washington started the intelligence services in the United States, up to that time, there was no analysis. You just bring it and a commander will look at it and make sense out of it. But analysis is having a team of people within the intelligence organization whose job it is, dedicated job it is, to get all source intelligence, do basic intelligence analysis and current intelligence analysis on the same subject, and then produce new knowledge, new products that we call intelligence products. That is where the weakness is. That's why we're not able to forestall a lot of these attacks. Let me tell you what happens in the United States, for example. If somebody, they have the snitch program, CI program all over the place. Somebody wants to bomb federal building, downtown Chicago, for example. He will be looking for, because he has to get stuff to bomb it, right? You don't just go there and say, build the bomb, and the building will bomb. It doesn't happen that way. That's African Nollywood movies, right? So yeah, you need to get fertilizer, you need to get stuff together, you need to get blasting caps.
Okay, all the ingredients.
And take them, build a bomb, and you need to get Confederates, people who will drive the bomb, this and that, because depending on the target you are trying to destroy, you need to build a bomb that is appropriate. We call that DBT, design basis threat. So you must have the whole things together. So while you're doing that, guess what? One of the guys you'll be talking to will be an FBI informant. And he will tell the FBI guys, then they will wire you up and collect. While that is going on, somebody's analyzing it back at Quantico and trying to figure out what your Confederates are. Because people never do those things alone. They always get help. And then when they get your Confederates, they will take down, at the end of the day, they'll take down the whole cell. But what do we do here? Somebody builds a bomb, for example, and when the authorities go in there, they shoot him dead. Well, what about all the information he has for us? So you've lost all that intelligence that could be coming. Now, let's leave that. Why are we not able to interrupt plots, plans to carry out this thing? Because we are not able to that is what we call connect the dots. It's a proverbial intelligence. It's a connect the dots. That means you have to look one piece of evidence here, one piece here, another piece here. It's like a jigsaw puzzle. And then you now say, this is the story. This is how it fits. That is how intelligence works. That's how intelligence is useful. It's not about just the information. There's a stream of information coming in. Even on Facebook or all those social media, there's a stream coming in. But it's what you do with that stream. That is the analysis you come up with that stream. That's what is intelligence.
We have a lot of collaboration. I mean, at the height of the Boko Haram crisis, there was a lot of collaboration with the American and the British, and I think also the French government, intelligence gathering and exchange.
It's a little bit questionable.
Overseeing what was being done. So I'm thinking to myself,
questionable.
Wouldn't that issue have arisen, and couldn't there have been an exchange or some kind of okay, this is how to do it better by those who are already doing it? For instance, the American intelligence team. That didn't happen.
Well, again, like I said, that was questionable. A lot of those, for example, a lot of the help that was promised never really got here. The British promised some help; it never came. The Americans came, they got on ground, finally got on ground here. They started flying ISR platforms for us. And when they were flying the ISR, they now came in with a training component for the military and made some demands. And the Nigerian military said no. So the Americans pulled out. Now, the French helped by talking to their people, that is the Cameroon guys, to join us in the fight. And after that AU mandate, strengthening the MNJTF, that's when they really came on board and started fighting side by side. So I will give that to the French, but the French never really gave us any intelligence or anything. So look, we are talking about intelligence now. So I'm saying that we really didn't get any intelligence help from anybody except the Americans, who flew some ISR, and something happened. When the Americans heard chatter from the ISR, they heard chatter of the Chibok girls. When they said it, one Nigerian military chief came out and said, we have located the Chibok girls. And that was a problem, because they kind of called the game of the Americans. Right. But that wasn't why they left eventually. Of course, they shut down the ISR with that. Why they left eventually was because of another request they made of the military. They know. Okay, so
based on all that you said now, going forward, obviously, I mean, if one puts two and two together, that will continue to make it a lot difficult for us to win.
It's a problem. It's a problem because we need to develop that capability. We need to develop intelligence, analytic.
Do you know if anything is being done specifically to address this problem?
Well, yes. I think there is some discussion going on. Some agencies, some military agencies are receiving that kind of training now. Okay. We have talked about fusion about 7 years ago. My association of Security and Safety, recommended fusion centers. Now, he said they are going to get to fusion centers. In fact, at the time, some people at the defense headquarters came in and said they have created fusion center based upon the recommendation that we made. But we have been trying to find that fusion center, because fusion is not just by name, it's also by production. So it's a problem. So,
but do they consult a lot with private security firms?
Oh yes, we work with we work with the authorities, and that's why I'm able to tell you that is a problem. There, because there are some agencies that should have that capability and they don't. But then there are other military agencies, I can be very clear, some military organizations that have developed that capability in-house. But you know, intelligence is not something that you do in a silo. You have to link up the whole sphere. That means you have to link from NSA to Army to Navy, Air Force, police agency, and that's how you get that fusion center that I'm talking about.
Let's go back to that $1 billion fund. When it's used to purchase, I don't know, equipment and to help the police.
And there may be intelligence products also.
For you, as a security expert, do you see it as no big deal? It's just they will purchase these items and it will be just business as usual? Because I've heard the government officials say, look, they're simply going to replenish stock that's been used up by the military because they fight this insurgency on a daily basis.
It's ongoing, yeah. No,
so it's just going to be business as usual. We'll buy the equipment and then we just...
War is expensive. War is really very expensive. It's better to prevent a war than to fight one. Okay. War is very expensive. And they really do need this material. And And it doesn't help us as Nigerians to convert it to political capital and to make statements like it's for election. It's not for election. War is, I mean, if you think it's for election, then go and take a rifle and I'll show you where Boko Haram is in the northeast. You go and fight them yourself, you know, and you find that it's not fun and games.
I want to quickly also talk about the last Dapchi schoolgirl that hasn't been brought home, Leah Sharibu. Do we know, what do we know?
Well, we don't know. The Minister of Defense has assured us that she will be brought home. The President has said that he will not rest until she's brought back. And there are those assurances. And I'm believing them because they assured us before that those other girls will be brought back in 2 weeks.
But I mean, it's the same assurances that we had with the, I mean, the Chibok girls. Well,
Chibok is a different thing. I think the posture of this government is, yes, they've accepted that they are successors in title, but I think they are more like, okay, that Chibok is more of a Jonathan problem, not our problem. Something like that, yes. I think that is the posture I see.
Okay. Yeah. We're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for talking to us today. We appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
That was Ona Ekhomu, President of the Association of Industrial Security and Safety Operators of Nigeria.